Welcome to John's Tarot. This isn't fortune telling, it isn't prediction, and it isn't about escaping the ordinary. This is a space where we slow down long enough to notice structure in our lives, in our history, and in ourselves. The symbols don't tell us what to do, they give us a place to land for meeting. And here we explore the maps. Tarot, the I Ching, the runes, not as authorities, but as mirrors. What emerges is already there. We're just learning to see it more clearly. If you're walking your own path of integration, if you're caring less than you used to, or if you're simply curious about how structure becomes alive, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Well, welcome to John's Tarot. Welcome to you. Thank you for wherever you may be in the world. I hope you all are doing great. And shout out to you to the entire world. I hope everybody's doing good. Today is going to be the final installment of my 3-part series on using symbolic systems for interpreting what's going on in reality. You know, one thing about symbolic systems is it's more dependent upon your internal higher self, because as you interpret these things, you're developing that state of individuation, and your interpretation is more colored by what's going on within you. Now, when we receive our information from the outside sources, whether it be Fox News or CNN or any particular website you want, they are coloring how you're receiving that information. They all put a little spin on it. But when you use symbolic systems, you're doing something entirely different. What you're doing different is you're drawing some interpretation from your inner self. That's why these things aren't really supported by the outside world. They don't want you drawing your own conclusions. Our media, is my belief, our media wants you to outsource your thinking and not make up your own mind. So these are tools to help you interpret the world as it actually is, without color from the outside world. So what I'm going to do today is talk about system perturbations. There's a certain feeling that shows up when a system is under pressure. You hear it in the language. You feel it in the tone. Statements become more absolute, more defensive, more certain, almost as if the system is trying to hold itself together by tightening.
I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
That kind of language isn't new. It's not tied to one time or one place. It's a pattern. And when you start to recognize that pattern, you begin to see something important. This isn't just rhetoric. It's systems under stress. And that's what I want to look at today. Not the politics, but the pattern underneath it. I've been really disturbed about some of the talk I've heard on the internet and increased anxiety. And I want to understand what's going on with the system. And that's what we're going to look at today. I hope you enjoyed the little sound clip. Those are just fun. So let's look at today's presentation. Today I want to talk about something I've been watching. Not just out in the world, but across multiple layers of experience, in systems, in people, in institutions, and honestly in myself. Because once you start looking through the lens of symbolic systems, something begins to happen. You stop seeing isolated events and start seeing patterns. And one of the most powerful patterns I've been observing lately is in how systems behave when they come under pressure. Not when things are calm, not when everything is working, but when something enters the field and disturbs it. What I would call a perturbation. Before we go further, let's ground this. When I say system, I'm not just talking about governments or organizations. A system can be a family, a workplace, a belief structure, a relationship, or even your own internal psychology. Anything that has structure, identity, and a way of maintaining itself. That's a system. And most systems, when they're stable, look coherent. They make sense. They function well enough that you don't question them. But stability can be misleading because you don't really understand the system until it's tested. Every system carries energy, momentum, direction, and when things are going well, that energy builds. You see growth, expansion, confidence. Things feel aligned. But here's a subtle shift that often goes unnoticed. Speed starts to increase, and reflection starts to decrease. And when that happens, pressure begins to build, sometimes quietly, sometimes irreversibly, until you reach a point where the system is no longer moving, it's being compressed. Now, under pressure, the systems have a choice. They can adapt, or they can rigidify. When a system rigidifies, something starts to happen. Clarity begins to distort. Not all at once, gradually. You start to see competing narratives, internal conflict, a shift from truth to maintain the structure. And from the inside, it often feels right. It feels justified. But from the outside, cracks are visible because the system is now carrying more pressure than it can accurately process. And then something enters the field. An event, a challenge, a disruption. It could be a question, a contradiction, a person speaking up, a legal issue, or just reality pushing back. This is the perturbation. And here's the key insight. The perturbation is not the cause of the breakdown. It's the reveal. It exposes what the system could no longer hold together. Once that exposure begins, things tend to move quickly. One issue leads to another. One fracture reveals the next. People shift positions. Information starts flowing. And what looks stable begins to unravel. Not randomly, but in a pattern. Like a network under load, where one node fails and the pressure redistributes until other nodes begin to fail as well. And here's where I want to slow this down, just for a moment. Because when we watch a system begin to unravel, most people focus on the obvious part, the failures, the individuals, the events. But there's something else happening. That's just as important, how the system responds. Because not every system responds the same way under pressure. Some systems bring things into the light. They correct early. They take responsibility. They adjust course. But other systems, they shift things quietly. They reassign. They reframe. They move pieces around without ever fully addressing what happened. And if you ever lived inside a system like that, you know the feeling. It's not that people don't see the problem. It's that the system can't tolerate disruption that would come from fully acknowledging it. So instead of resolution, you get management, containment, stability at the surface. Over time, that tells you something, because the real question isn't just what went wrong. The deeper question is, what is the system protecting? Is it protecting truth, or is it protecting itself? There's something I've learned the hard way. There is truth, and then there is spin. Truth is what actually happened. Spin is how we try to explain it, soften it, or move around it. And this isn't about one group or another. Everyone does this. Individuals do it, systems do it, because spin is easier. It protects the image. It reduces discomfort. It keeps things moving. But it doesn't change reality. And at some point, reality catches up. And I want to make something very clear here. Accountability is not a statement. It's not an apology. It's not even a movement. It's a process. It's admission, change in behavior, consistency over time, and sometimes consequences you don't get to avoid. I know that because I've lived it. There was a line, and I crossed it, and there was no moving around it, no reframing it, no softening it. There was a reckoning, and that reckoning didn't happen in a day. It took time, work, consistency. And once you live that, you start to see the difference between something being managed and something actually being transformed. So when I look at systems now, I don't just ask what's happened. I asked, what is real? What is being presented? Because there is always a difference. Okay, now I'm going to move over to our little tarot section, right? A little tarot reading every session. And, these are tarot spreads. You could try these tarot spreads alone, by yourself, and see what type of answers you're getting. I'm very concerned about the system that we're in. And it makes me think about it at Dr. Strangelove.
Survival kit contents check. In them you'll find 145 caliber automatic, 2 boxes of ammunition.
This is your survival kit. This is your current system survival kit spread. And that's one way to say it. But this is the perturbation map. It's a 5-card spread. And I'll read off how the cards should be laid out. First, you have the card positions. You have the system state, where your system currently is. Is it stable, strained, fragmented? The second card will be the hidden tension. What is building beneath the surface? Pressure not fully visible, contradiction, imbalance. 3, the perturbation, the trigger event or disruption. 4, the system response, how the system is reacting, adapting, resisting, collapsing, and deflecting. And then 5, the direction of change, where it leads if this pattern continues. And I am concerned about our current political system. That's the one that gets me. My ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love, and I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. And my camera keeps fading in and out. I'll be all right. So, in our current political system, which is my concern, let's do the system read. What is the system state, the hidden tensions, the perturbation, system response, and the direction of change? I always say I don't do fortune telling, but this one is a little bit of fortune telling. We are looking at the system state because this system is looking to me to be more and more unstable. So let's take a look at it. What is the current state of this system? Okay, what is the current state of this political system that we're involved with right now? It seems rather unstable to me. But what do I know? I'm just a tarot card reader. What is the state of the current system we're involved with? Hidden tensions, the perturbation, and the system response. I'll cut the deck. Okay. The system state, and I'll throw some runes on it. The Fool card. That's really appropriate. The system state, the hidden tensions. The Queen of Cups. Let me see if I can get these to all fit in there. The perturbation. What kind of change? Well, we see a lot of that. The Star. A lot of things disturbing the system. And then, I don't know if they're going to shut this down. The Star card is kind of a sensitive one. And then the system response is the Two of Swords. And then the direction of change is the 10 of Cups. So let me go ahead and throw some runes on this and see what we get. Odin and Freya, please help guide this reading. The system state. What is the system state for the Fool card? And the rune is called Jira. So the system state, the Fool card. I see all my cards a little reversed. That's okay. I see the system state as the Fool card has to do with new beginnings, new starts. It also has to do with being naive and not looking ahead and not being careful about your footing. And the system is crossed into a new area. It's crossed into a new journey. It's crossed into a new phase. And Jira, this has to do with growth and change. And it's just beginning. This it's new area. It has just changed. It has just passed into. It's just at its beginning. It's crossed into a new threshold. It's crossed into a new state. And in each state, and I talked about this in my last couple of videos, how systems have a life cycle. So this system has crossed into a new state in its life cycle. And the hidden tension, Queen of Cups, where this system is supposed to be taking care of us, the Queen of Cups. And this rune is called Orthelia. It's supposed to be taking care of us. It's supposed to be looking after us. But I really feel like this system is just putting more stress on it. I feel like a good system would be removing stress from our lives, removing tensions. But this system is putting more stress on our lives. I don't feel like it's meeting its responsibilities. Things are becoming more expensive. This individual who's in charge of it, I call him the primary oscillator, is putting more stress on us by he's threatening to wipe out entire populations, entire cultures, and then revealing himself that he believes he's Jesus Christ. That is a system under stress. That is a system response that is putting more tension on us. It's not fulfilling its obligation, which would be the Queen of Cups, that we've got everything under control. You're going to be all right. It's not doing that at all. It's increasing our risk, and that is its. Orthelia has to do with inheritance, things from the past. And it's not fulfilling its role of systems of the past, people in that position. And then the star card has to do with the perturbation, the change. Let's see what the rune is before I do the interpretation. And that rune is called Feo, yeah. Movable wealth. That is a card of you are supposed. You see the woman bent over, reaching into the dumping water into the pond. That's the field of unconsciousness, and also into the ground. This card is supposed to be about the we're here to perform our duties that is given to us by the higher power, and we're supposed to fulfill those duties. The rune fail. Everything's backwards on today's. I'll have to work on that. Everything is backwards. I don't know if this one is fulfilling its obligations to the people, if it's fulfilling what it's supposed to be doing. It doesn't feel that way to me. It feels like it's not fulfilling its obligation to the population, to the how can I say this, to the population, to the nation, to the Constitution. It's not fulfilling its obligation as it should be. What it's doing, the rune is called Feo, and that rune is backwards today, but it's about collecting money. It seems to be in a position where it's more concerned about money and collecting wealth and removable wealth than it's concerned about fulfilling its obligation to the population. And that's just how I'm reading it. And then the fourth rune, system response. And this one is Iwaz. You can see that one a little bit more clearly. Oops, put it there. So we can see it. EWAS, move this over a little bit. Okay, and EWAS has to do with the system response. It's at cross purposes to itself. You see the woman with a blindfold on and two swords, and it's supposed to be, and it's gathering information about this new phase it's entering into. I don't know what's going on with our chief executive, but they're looking at this guy. They're looking at him, and is he going to be able to move forward and move the country forward in this dignified, purposeful way? And that is a system response. It's doing some self-reflection, but it's not doing self-reflection to reconnect. It's doing self-reflection in order to do damage control, because this chief executive is not providing what we need as far as moving forward with dignity and grace. And then the direction of change. And then the final rune is called Eartho. Put it up there. I could turn that one around a little bit. Pertho. Direction has changed. It's moving towards what the correction is making. It's moving towards a position of homeostasis, of what it believes is happiness, of trying to stabilize the system. You see a family and they're looking at cups. So it's moving towards a position of stability. I don't see it. I don't see it moving towards a position of stability as I look at it. This rune here, they're taking a chance. Pertho is a game of chance, is the rune of chance. And it's also a rune of the phoenix. Not so necessarily a phoenix, but a bird flying overhead and looking down on itself and able to take a look at what's lying ahead. Is this system moving towards stability? It's trying to move towards stability. It's looking at itself in terms of change. We will only see what's changing here is my relationship to the system. I'll tell you that as I look down on it, and I use these symbolic systems to help me realize what's really going on in terms of my perception. I don't feel good about this system. I don't feel like this system has been reflective upon itself. I don't feel like it's moving us towards a position of safety and change. That is how I feel about it. And that is what I'm going to end for this week.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
Well, it was my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed this 3-part series. And this is the conclusion of my 3-part series. And that you take these symbolic systems and use them in your life. And you can examine what's going on in the outside world as a third source of information, but realizing that most of this information is coming from you internally. And this was just my reading. This is just how I feel about what's going on. I need to, for me personally, even though these are unsettled times, I need to take responsibility for remaining calm, remaining purposeful, and remaining focused on my family, my career, and my life. And I'm just going to have to let this system do what it does and let it cycle through its life cycle. And maybe next week I'll do something on a little fortune telling on how does this, what does things look like in the near or immediate future. So until next week, be careful, be cool, be kind. And remember, find strength, have courage, have faith. And I will see you all again next week. All right, bye-bye.